Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. HeirofCarthage here, and yes, I've got another great Rome 2 battle for you. This one coming to you from the Eblana map, which has some nice topography here to mix things up a little bit from Massilia. So let's take a look at the two armies. This is going to be some Greek-on-Greek violence, folks. So it should be good stuff. We've got Tarentine cavalry advancing for the Massilians over in this corner. They have some Celtic slingers. Then I see a lot of Lancer cavalry. I think it's 4. Yeah, wow, 4 heavy Lancers. So Massilia definitely hoping to do some of their damage on shock cavalry. And then I see a line of axe warriors across. And then in the back, a couple of thorax swords. And then mercenary Gallic hunters. An interesting option here. These are snipe-capable archers that deal out a good bit of damage from decent range. And on the other side for Athens, we're going to see at least 2 Tarentine cavalry. We're going to make it 4, so a lot of Tarentines. Up the middle, we're going to have just standard slingers. They are flanked by Thurios spears. And then we have a main line of thorax hoplites. And then behind that, we're going to have some thorax swords, which is going to make up a good sturdy sword line. The general is also a thorax hoplite, and there's another in the back. Thurios spears, so very light cavalry here for Athens. Ooh, yeah, Athens getting involved in a melee because they had a numeric advantage there, but they wanted to pull away from that as the Lancer cavalry approached, and that's understandable. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one here. We're going to see who gets the advantage, and Massilia pulling up and starting the slinger fight here, and an answer there from Athens, so both players immediately wheeling up into skirmish range. Neither one has any massive advantage to begin with from a skirmishing standpoint. They're going to have to make something happen. Looks like 2 of the Tarentine cavalry pulled away from the flank, leaving their Thurios spears, and it looks like they're trying to work some numbers over here, charging. It's not really working out great, though, and Athens just took a big hit there from those Hippeus Lancers. But, I mean, they do have an opportunity to dump some javelins into that Lancer and get some pretty good value. So we'll see what happens here. Skirmish fight. It looks like the infantry being targeted by Massilia and the skirmishers being targeted by Athens. So I've seen this story before, and it actually usually ends up poorly for the team that allows the other team to maybe shoot at their infantry for a prolonged amount of time. So we're going to see whether Athens decides to do something about that. This Thurios spears gets into a square last second. That's going to leave them vulnerable to that axe warrior, so this is a nice move coming in here. Thurios spears being challenged here on this flank, and the thorax swordsman being held until after the hoplites hold. Nice job there by Athens, keeping from getting hit by that Lancer cab charge. Those hoplites took a beating right there, though, an absolute beating. Lancers are brutal onto unbraced units, very brutal. Usually the armor will save you some, but I mean, that was a big hit there from those Lancers. This Thurios spear is in a bit of trouble here, though we see javelins flying through here, and an opportunity that Athens may be able to recoup some of this. We'll see. Ooh, the thorax hoplite general had to turn his back and retreat, and he got shredded by those Gallic hunters, and they are just targeting him. So we're seeing here again the strategy of shred the infantry kind of coming from the skirmishers, and these extra skirmishers are making that possible at the moment. And Athens is trying to react, and honestly, they're doing a pretty good job like holding off the engagement over here, but in the meantime, their general is getting absolutely killed. And they've got to contend with a whole bunch of horsemen, and it makes it difficult to answer those Gallic hunters there. So the thorax hoplites are intended to hold here, and then maybe some cleanup with the other units, but we will see what happens. There was a lot of heavy infantry for Athens, and getting some of it shredded in that fight's not going to be good. That said, Massilia has very limited infantry capability here, and if Athens is able to wear through that quickly, it could leave Massilia in a very unsupported situation here, where they just don't have much left to deal with a rather large contingent of infantry. And as dangerous as Lancer cavalry is, it's not invincible. This isn't Total War Attila, where you could obliterate a unit on a single charge. There's a little more to it than that. Ooh, Athens got caught on their micro here. That Lancer slams into 4 units of Tarentines. and is going to rack up a tremendous number of valuable kills here. Those Tarentines still had javelins. Some of them did. So that was a really nice hit there. This Tarentine cavalry flees in the opposite direction, gets hit by another Hippeus. It looks like Athens is busy microing a lot of sections here and is struggling to keep up with some of them. But that happens to every player in every game, and me, of course, I'm no exception to that rule. But as I mentioned, if you look here, the infantry is getting worn down for Massilia, and there's a lot of units left over here for Athens. There's a couple of Thurio spears, the Thorax Hoplite General is alive, this Thorax Hoplite is very much alive. We've got healthy Thorax swords over here, 2 of those. A couple of Thurio spears still kicking over here on the flanks, so like I said, this one's going to be interesting. It still shows the power bar pretty much split down the middle. That could change, though, if Massilia dumps all of its ammunition. That power bar could swing really quickly. Look at this, though. That target continues to be the Athenian general, so Massilia is hoping to get kind of a knockout blow here, and every time that Athenian general turns his back, it's just brutal. The Athenian general should have retreated outside of range, I believe. That's rough. It's looking to get an outflank, though, and try and clean up the Massilian infantry, but, ooh, they're going to pay for it. I don't see any way the Massilian general survives this. If he does, then he's an absolute boss. Wow, he took an absolute beating there. Slingers have a lot of ammunition, Gallic hunters not so much. But if they get the right shots, they will do a tremendous amount of damage, because if they are shooting into your back or into an unshielded flank, and you can see Massilia here held a couple of units in reserve. They've got a Thorax sword and an Axe warrior still in reserve, but otherwise it's down to Lancer cavalry and skirmishers, so Massilia might start to feel some pressure here, and there are some slingers left here for Athens. They're going to want to be careful of those Tarentine cavalry. The Tarentine cavalry are going to score some wins here. This could shift the power bar. We'll see. If the ammunition is lost on those slingers, that could definitely have an impact on the power bar that would go in the favor of Massilia. We'll see. It looks like the general may have died. Nope. I don't see a general dead yet, which is amazing. So somehow that Athenian general staying out of the grave. These Tarentine cavalry are going to get a lot of slinger kills. They'll take some damage to the Thurio spears. Thurio spears are okay against lighter cavalry, like Tarentines, but if the cavalry moves quick enough, Thurio spears aren't really that great. They're not going to score a lot of hits. And it looks like right now, Massilia may be attempting to split this flank and then smash it with cavalry. And if they succeed in this, then Athens is in bad shape. Athens is a little bit blobbed up in a couple of the infantry fights, and it's kind of understandable because they're trying to protect against this cavalry, but then it also makes them extremely vulnerable to the skirmishers. It's kind of a catch-22. And Massilia flipped that power bar real quick there by getting those slingers and then putting in a couple of rear charges. I think Athens certainly had the manpower to cause a lot of trouble here late. They just had no answer to the just withering skirmish barrage from the Massilians. The Gallic hunters, not a unit that I would have come expecting from Massilia. It's something that a lot of people can probably forget about, to be honest. And they are a big investment. I think they cost quite a bit because of their ability to hide and snipe. But they don't have the kind of damage that some of the Eastern archers do, but they still do a tremendous amount of damage when used properly. And since they can hide if nothing's close enough to scout them out, it can make it difficult to shoot back at them in certain circumstances, especially if there's a wood line or something like that where they can operate. But so Massilia brought its damage component in the form of cavalry and missiles, and it worked. It worked out very well for him here. So Hunter, I can see the direction that he was taking with this build, and I don't totally disagree with it. It's a ton of heavy infantry, and you're trying to just basically weigh down Massilia with heavy infantry, and that can work in Rome 2, and it does work on a frequent basis. But in this case, the missiles and the cavalry were able to overcome. Lancer cavalry is just very dangerous. It is very dangerous indeed. When it gets the charges against those unbraced units, it will be devastating, and we saw that from multiple units here. Athens just wasn't able to slow down those Lancers, and it ended up being, a little too much for them. It definitely makes me think that some citizen cavalry could have been quite helpful here in terms of at least being able to pin them down. But I mean, I understand the pick of Tarentine cavalry too, because the idea is that it provides some skirmish and at least something that's going to be fast moving. But that means your Thurio spears are going to have to get very aggressive in support of the Tarentine cavalry. And they're also going to have to get very aggressive at dumping javelins into the lancers anytime they charge. Otherwise, there's just not much good they're going to do in terms of being able to stop the heavy cav. But good game to Hunter. Appreciate them. And Soul here playing this battle. Appreciate both of them. HeirofCarthage signing up for now. I'll see you all soon with some more action in Total War Rome 2.